right. So if Zach's excited, I'm actually nervous because this is my first ever talk, especially talking about tech as well, but here we go. So today I'll be discussing on it's more of not a discussion, but a mini showcase and like what you can actually do with CSS, which is pretty cool. So yeah, recently I've been playing around and I managed to make a holographic Pokemon cards using the help of CSS. And you might ask, like, why are you even bothered to even make a Pokemon card? Well, it started when I was 5. I was given my first ever Game Boy, and ever since I'm hooked on Pokemon. But then as I started growing up, I realized my Game Boy has a broken memory card that I can't really save the progress of my Pokemon journey. So I was given a Nintendo 3DS, and ever since then I pivoted from my Game Boy into my 3DS, and ever since I've also very loved in my opinion, the best Pokemon game that has ever been made, which is the Heart Gold and also Soul Silver. Honestly, it's the best Pokemon game. If you've never played it, I'd say give it a try. Because unlike any other Pokemon games, this is the first game where your actual Pokemon can like follow you from behind. So in my opinion, the best game that you need to try if you've never played Pokemons. And yeah, just like the other kids around my block, I was also able to buy some Pokemon cards. But because I moved around my house, I lost it all. Now I don't know where the binder is. I think it might gone up, in terms of value. And speaking of value, the reason I'm back in the hobby of collecting Pokemon cards, if you haven't realized already why I'm making this talk, is because the Pokemon cards are outperforming the S&P 500 by almost 7 times. So yeah, I mean, if I can't buy stocks correctly and it keeps on dipping, I just I thought, what, I think it's time to just buy Pokemon cards instead. So yeah, call me FOMO, but yeah, I guess Logan Paul has bought me into like buying Pokemon cards again. So yeah, a few months ago, I picked up my first ever Pokemon slab. And this is my first ever slab as well, my first ever graded Pokemon card. And it's a Charizard V-Star. And I want to show it off to you all, but I'm afraid if I want to show it off like this, but then I'm afraid if I bring it everywhere, I might lose it, or people might steal it. Like, you've seen the recent news, there's a lot of Pokemon stores that are breaking into, so you know what? I just want to show it off, via a picture or maybe a video. But then I thought, it wouldn't be as intuitive. And so I thought, is there a way for me to showcase the full effect of my beautiful Charizard card by coding it? And so I found this website, which is by Simon. Huge shout out to Simon, the original, I guess, founder of how you actually display holographic Pokemon cards in CSS. And yeah, he, I guess, showcased all of the different holographic effects you can, add to your Pokemon cards. And so with this, and of course the help of the almighty cursor, I was able to scrape through his website and his open source repo to understand how it works. And I want to show it off a little bit, just so you guys know maybe you can also do the same thing. So yeah, here we go. This is how the card looks like when, it's finished. You can really see, I guess, the holographic effect when you, I guess, add on a parallax effect there. So it's pretty cool. So the key thing is that this is not fully with CSS. You actually need to do some layering. So here we have actually 3 layers. To be honest, it's 2 layers. It's just the base card and the foil layer. And we have the mask layer to just mask out the foil layer on top of the base card. So if you kind of see the effect here, the holographic effect is only like showing on top of like specific layers of the card. If you see, it's not on top of the Charizard, the Mewtwo, and some of the text as well. So that stencil layer of like the foil layer and the mask layer being combined is what gives that holographic effect, where you have the metallic layer rendered on top of just the white part, because the black part isn't rendered on top, and that's the use of the mask layer. So yeah, we'll dig into the code, and yeah, essentially this is the code overall structure. So for this one, I use the help of React and also CSS modules. And the reason why I praise Cursor was that this open source repo was written with Svelte, which I don't understand. So yeah, I needed the help of Cursor to digest it and also scrape through it. So yeah, this is the overall architecture. To be honest, it's just the 2 main layers over there, but then we have the card itself is just to frame it all, because I want the card to be being able to be plug and play in my different components in my website. The stabilizer container is because we have a parallax effect, and sometimes if you've played around with 3D transforms in CSS, when you reach that certain border, it can jitter a bit. So that stabilizer container just turns off those pointer events so that it doesn't detect any pointer events and doesn't cause the jitter. So yeah, here we go. So first off is by creating the frame. So here, I guess a cool CSS trick that I learned from this, and I've been using also for my project, is the aspect ratio. So if you've never used aspect ratio before, aspect ratio is a very nice way to, I guess, make squares, circles, or I guess frames that are like for your thumbnails if you have a project that needs a thumbnail. So it keeps the aspect ratio of the frame or the object you created. And every time you change the width or the height, whatever you set to auto will automatically adjust to it. So yeah, this is what I really like. So essentially, I just make the frame. And like I said, I use the touch action none just to turn off that jittering effect whenever we want to implement the parallax effect. And then I just have the card there just to follow the aspect ratio with width 100% and height 100%. And yeah, so this is the actual card component itself. Yeah, so this is where we also pass in multiple CSS variables, where we will be manipulating that with the TSX later on. And here you can also see I have mask and foil that will be for the images later. So here we go. So we are passing in the mask and foil layer, the image source from TSX into the CSS. Basically, it's just a way for us to dynamically change it if I want to change this to a different Pokemon card later on. So yeah, you can like manually set it there, but then if I want to pass in different Pokemon cards, I'll need to pass in a different variable to make it easy. So yeah, we pass in that. And yeah, these are the two layers that we're passing in, the mask and the foil layer. So yeah, here we are just initializing the base layer. It's just the plain image with no effects on it. And yeah, here we just use the object fit cover and with 100% just the normal stuff. And we also use an overflow hidden just so whenever the holographic effect actually comes out of the card, you won't be able to see it. So it's just like a full-on card. And here we go. So here's how we give that texture effect. So what we did was we have another layer on top. So this is the base. We have another layer on top, which is the foil. And in the foil, we essentially give the background of the foil image that we have. But then, to ensure that we only render the holographic effect on top of that, I guess, white part of the foil, if you see from here, the white part of the foil is right there. We use the mask layer. Essentially, this is actually transparent, and basically that black part is like, it's gone. So it's just like that hole in the wall. So essentially, whatever you splatter on top of that yellow box, that's what's being shown in the web. And yeah, that's how we achieve those layers. So if you can see, there's multiple lines over there, and that's the layer being rendered. And here we use another stuff that I really enjoy from CSS2, which is mixed blend mode. So I guess if you've used Photoshop or maybe Figma, there's a mixed blend mode, and it's a cool way to like show off pictures in different blend modes. So here I use screen. Essentially what screen does is it takes the light part, and that's why only the white part is being rendered as well, or like being shown. Essentially just shows off a more metallic effect. So yeah, that's the use of screen here. And yeah, once we've added that and we've added texture, here comes the holographic effect. Well, the holographic effect actually comes from multiple gradients. So I've got like a rainbow gradient. So yeah, I guess touching on Asbeth's topic, I use HSL here for the colors. So yeah, here are the multiple rainbow colors that I guess gives the color to the holographic effects. And then here we have a light beam gradient, which is just to give a depth on like the light. And finally, we also have a spotlight radial gradient, which is what's going to follow the cursor. So if you see there, there's a pointer X and pointer Y. So to give, if you see the GIF just now, that like I guess holographic effect being like based on where my cursor is at, that's what's giving that I guess 3D effect. And yeah, before that we also have the var foil as well, just to render it on top of the foil. And then we also give it a saturation, just to give it a more saturation. Well, you can play around with this, but yeah, essentially cursor really helped me with this as well, because without that I wouldn't really understand what to render or like the colors on how to compose this. So yeah, so that's about that. And yeah, to just add on, we also mask it again. So because in this one, I made multiple steps of like how you can show the cards in my website. Yeah, I decided to just like have a different mask on top of this one as well, so you can just separately show it. So yeah, that is what I guess cuts out the gradient for not showing on top of the Charizard and the Mewtwo and the text. So yeah, now on to another thing as well that I added, which is the spectacular lamp. Essentially, it's just another layer on top again, where I added a card glare and also card glare edge, which is just two radial gradients, one smaller and one bigger. Essentially, like that bigger, the smaller one is like the yellow one, and then the bigger one is like the orangish color. It just adds glare, but then I don't use yellow and orange, I use white for mine. So it adds like a depth when you're hovering over it. So yeah. Yeah, this is the TSX behind it. It might seem complicated, but it's just basically just to pass on the location of your cursor relative to the card itself. So yeah, I let AI mostly do the math for me, but essentially it's just to map out where your cursor is relative to the card. So yeah, that's that. And now onto the parallax effect. Well, yeah, I think most people usually, use parallax effect for just cool stuff, just to show it off. It's not really good for like web performance, in my opinion. But just to give off a cool effect here, I added a parallax effect using transform. So what we use here is a perspective. So perspective gives that depth whenever you change the translation and rotation. And then yeah, we just use translate 3D to give that moving 3D effect. And then we use rotate and rotate Y just to rotate the card over following our mouse, and a bit of scale just to zoom it or make it bigger whenever we hover on top of it. And yeah, here's the cool stuff that I just learned as well, which is the preserve 3D, transform style preserve 3D. I've never actually used this before. I've just used it for this project. And apparently it's to retain the special spatial interaction between those transform stuff. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. And will change transform is to like make the DOM performance better. I guess to give like the DOM an alert that we're gonna be changing these variables or like this stuff so that it renders faster. I think that's how it works. So yeah, yeah, that's basically the math behind it. And yeah, finally we were able to achieve this with the multiple layers that we added. And that's about it. Hopefully you learned something new, and hopefully you might even try and make your own Pokemon card. So yeah, if you're down to make your Pokemon card, let me know, and maybe I can make it come to life. Thank you all. That's pretty much it.